A lot of people feel pressure going into a new year, but I think that pressure hits differently when you're in your 20s, especially with comparison culture and people posting on their social media that they've gone on 20 different vacations or they're making seven figures or something like that. But going into a new year is not just about resolutions or goals, and it feels more like this quiet question in the background of your life. Where am I supposed to be? Am I behind? Should I be further along by now? And the weird part is you can be doing fine on paper and still feel that pressure. So going into 2026, I don't really want to talk about big goals or drastic changes that you need to be making, but I want to talk about a few things that I'm personally taking with me. And I feel that especially if you're 20s and you feel like you're in between phases, then you can maybe take some of these tips into how you can consistently work to achieve your goals and find the growth that you're looking for. So, tip number one is consistency beats intensity. And I feel like we live today in a culture of everyone wants quick wins, everyone wants to get rich quick, but a lot of us underestimate how consistency and continuing to work on something actually will build up your skills over time and compound. And motivation will show up randomly, but consistency shows up quietly. And most progress in life, whether that's in your school, you're learning new things, it doesn't come from big bursts of effort, but it comes with doing the same small things over and over until, uh, you know, you build something that brings meaning to you. And this is something that I'm starting to do with my YouTube. YouTube is something that I've always wanted to do. And being consistent is super important, especially when you're on a bigger journey where you're working towards your goals. So going into 2026, I'm less focused on going harder, but more focused on building a routine and not disappearing on myself. So showing up when it counts, even when it's boring, and producing consistent results to achieve my goals. So point number two is systems over motivation. And motivation is something that is emotional. You'll think of something that you want to do or a goal, and maybe you've been thinking about it for a while. And then you start to work on it, and then, you do a couple tasks, you complete a couple little things, but then you start to lose that motivation, and then that consistency falls off. But once you build a system, that's when it becomes practical. That's when life gets busy or heavy. Then these systems are in place to keep you moving when you don't feel like it. And I'm definitely a victim of this. I've had a lot of, great ideas that come to my head and then I don't, or I do an initial bit of action and then that will fall off and the consistency falls off. But build systems and discipline in place that keeps you coming back to that thing that you're working towards. And the more that you work at something, the more routine you establish and the more you invest, that will compound and turn into something that you can be proud of and that will help you to achieve your goals. And these habits will then continue to run on autopilot and help you, work towards building that schedule that you're looking for. So work to establish systems to keep you coming back and investing in your time and focus less on that initial motivation, as that will allow you to start falling off in terms of your routine. So, point number three is to seek discomfort. And this might sound a bit strange, but I feel like it's super easy to get in this routine of feeling comfortable. And then once you feel comfortable, when you're trying to, use your time wisely, you'll start to doom scroll or invest all your time into social media or, TikTok, Instagram reels. And then at the end of the day, after scrolling for so long, you feel unfulfilled. Like, wow, I just spent the entire day scrolling my phone, and instead I could have been using that time to invest into something that is creative or something that makes you feel good. And coming with that comes discomfort and being able to be uncomfortable learning, feel uncomfortable breaking your routine. But this is how any work gets done. And once you get out of your comfort zone, then that is something that allows you to start to flourish and learn out of the means of what you already know. And responsibility is uncomfortable, growth is uncomfortable, and not knowing what's next is uncomfortable. But especially in your 20s, that discomfort is often a sign that you're stretching. And this can apply not only to working on something creative, but anything in your life, like going to the doctor, taking care of yourself, going to the gym. So seeking discomfort is about getting out of your comfort zone and being willing to invest some time in something that will only do good things for you. And I think a lot of us interpret discomfort as danger, but it's really just a part of learning how life works without training wheels. Point number 4, and something I briefly mentioned earlier, is to stop comparing timelines. And this is huge and honestly harder than it sounds. It's not about comparing your timeline to other people's. Everyone optimizes for different things at different times. And especially in our comparison culture, there's a lot of people who will post all of their wins on social medias, but in reality, they could be, more in debt, or they could be struggling in terms of uh, spending a more flashy lifestyle than what they actually have. And people have different paths. Some people go all in on career early. Some people focus on relationships. Some people will explore and travel, and some people will settle later. But comparing timelines just creates pressure for yourself that doesn't actually help you move forward. So going into 2026, I'm personally reminding myself that someone else being ahead doesn't mean I'm necessarily behind. It just means that I'm still at a certain place in my journey and I'm still working on myself, trying to achieve my goals. And we're just playing different versions of the game. So keep that in mind. Everything that you see on social media isn't always true. Stay true to yourself, set some goals, and allow yourself to have the consistency to build a life that you are looking to achieve. So when I think about going into 2026, it really comes down to this. I'm trying to care less about intensity and more about consistency. I'm choosing systems over motivation because motivation comes and goes. I'm reminding myself that discomfort doesn't mean I'm failing. It usually means I'm growing. And I'm doing my best to stop comparing my timeline to everyone else's. And none of this is about fixing everything at once. It's about staying in the game long enough for things to compound. Clarity comes from movement, confidence comes from showing up, and progress usually feels slower than it actually is. So if you're heading into 2026 feeling a bit uncertain, especially in your 20s, that doesn't mean you're behind. It probably just means you're between levels. And that's exactly where growth happens. If you've enjoyed this video, please feel free to give a comment, like, or subscribe. I'm pretty new in my YouTube journey, but looking forward to growing with my audience. And if there's anything that you guys would like to see in the next couple of videos, please feel free to let me know. Thanks and have a great day.